Hey agents, in this video I want to break down each of the current specializations in the Division 2. I'm hoping this will give beginners an idea of which one will work best for their specific builds and playstyles. Let's kick things off with the Firewall specialization. The tactical link can be useful when you're using a shotgun or SMG, as you'll want to be up close and personal. Fiery response, although it no longer works in PvP, thank God, can be helpful again if you're using SMGs or shotguns, because you basically need to be up in your enemies' faces. The 50% pulse resistance is standard for all specializations. Bull Rush is nothing special, as you don't tend to take much damage while doing cover to cover in PvE anyways. The Striker's Shield is very strong, as not only does it block damage, but it also, for some reason, gives you a damage boost. Combine it with Insync for a ton of bonus damage. Your teammates can also get this boost if they stay very close behind you. The armor kit for this specialization is one of the strongest, especially in PvP. You'll often see players take a bit of damage, pop their medkit behind cover, and jump straight back into battle, as they'll get significant regen for the next 10 seconds. Frontline recovery is kind of weak, as it's only 30%. Whether you have 15% or 45% health, it's not going to make much of a difference. As a side note, the 100% health on kill from Hunter's Fury is really nice, as it will reset the temporary immunity when you hit 1% health in PvE. The Enriched Magnesium formula is great for any fire skills as well as the flamethrower, making enemies unable to aim down sights for 20 seconds longer. The Cluster Grenade is one of the few specialization grenades that is actually useful. In PvP, this is great for finishing enemies that are down behind cover. It covers a huge area, so you don't need to be so accurate. Don't expect it to do much damage though. The Flamethrower is absolutely broken in PvP. Has been for almost a year, which is the main reason I dislike this specialization. Finally, the weapon attachment is a 10% critical hit damage grip. This is perfect for SMGs, as they don't need the extra crit chance from their attachments to reach the 60% cap. Anyways, I think Firewall is a strong specialization for both PvE and PvP if you play an aggressive CQC playstyle. For the Gunner specialization, we'll start with the supply line. This can be super useful if you run ammo directives in Summit. If you have two different weapons, you'll basically never run out of ammo with this perk. And placement can be pretty good in PvE if you tend to use cover. Faster reloads will increase your overall DPS, and better recoil control and accuracy will help you hit more shots. Even though it's only 5 seconds, Barrage can be very strong in content like DZ landmarks, where you have large groups of enemies in close proximity. The Banshee Pulse is nice for a little crowd control with a large area of effect in both PvE and PvP. In PvP, enemies can't control their movement and their vision is blurred for the duration of the effect. The armor kit is nice as it procs Intimidate, which gives 35% amplified damage. Don't expect much survivability in PvE though. Coupler is a nice little perk, hard to keep track of in PvP though. 10% armor on kill is okay in PvE, but when combined with the armor on kill from Hunter's Fury or System Corruption, it feels a little more helpful. I really like the Riot Foam grenade in PvE, where you can actually hit live targets with your grenades. The effect lasts a really long time, so using it before actually engaging enemies will almost guarantee that they get stuck. The minigun is actually pretty strong, but the bonus armor is useless, and your movement is so slow, I can't imagine any situation where using this gun would be better than an actual gun. The weapon attachment is an LMG pouch that gives 50 rounds, which is 20 more rounds than a regular pouch. In summary, unless you're making a PvP build around the Banshee Pulse, this is a specialization better suited for PvE. I run it on almost all of my PvE DPS builds. It seems like it was designed for LMG players, but it's great for anything from SMGs to rifles. Kicking off the Technician, Faraday Field can be useful against hunters in PvE, or even in PvP if your team is running a healer, but 5 meters is a pretty tight area and thus not something to depend on to avoid disrupt. Technomancy isn't useless, but it's probably not going to save your life very often. Here you can swap between 10% skill damage and 10% skill healing. Both can be a nice little boost depending on your build. A high skill tier Artificer Hive is so good in legendary missions when you're on a team with a lot of skill users. It will make their deployed skills much stronger and increase their uptime. Not the funnest skill to use, but very effective. In PvP, you'll sometimes see players use it with their shields, as they don't need to deploy it to gain the effect on your own shield. The armor kit can also be good on teams with a lot of skill users. Dismantling is great against Black Tusk, as they use a lot of drones and robots. The +1 skill tier can allow a little more versatility in your build. This allows you to add a blue or a red attribute to your skill build and still be at tier 6. In PvP, this will add a little more health to your shield as well. Also, if you add the named card pistol, which gives yet another skill tier, you can have even more weapon damage or armor on your skill build. The EMP grenade is really effective when you can hit skills or robotics with it, but in PvP, a jammer pulse is much easier. And in PvE, the robodogs are always moving, making them difficult target to hit. Try to predict where they will be instead of where they are when throwing these grenades. The specialization weapon is a missile launcher that locks onto targets. It does a moderate amount of damage in PvE, but in PvP, it's almost always a one-shot kill. If you play PvP, you'll want to memorize the sound of the missiles launching so you can roll into cover as soon as you hear it. This has a really cool weapon attachment. It's an underbarrel laser pointer that pulses enemies you aim at. This can be very helpful for your teammates, and if you equip the spotter chest piece talent, you'll be gaining an additional 15% to all enemies you shoot. This is a very popular setup in PvP, and I've seen it a number of times in PvE as well. So the Technician Specialization is most impactful on a skill build, but can also be quite effective on a DPS build if you take advantage of the skill tier and the laser pointer attachment. Next up, we have the Demolitionist Specialization. It starts with the Tactical Link, which is very strong in group play. Just keep in mind that you do not get the 5% damage, only your teammates. Crisis Response is an awesome perk in PvP when combined with Unbreakable and or Tardigrade. It can allow you to keep firing for 100 straight rounds with ARs or SMGs. Just a word of advice, if you're running high blues, you're better off with a gun with a slightly slower rate of fire, and high rate of fire weapons with low armor builds. Because if I run a FAMAS with 4 or 5 blues, I'm going to empty my mag before my armor is broken, so Crisis Response will usually be wasted. I believe it's on a 60-second cooldown, same as Unbreakable, so you can't just keep reloading your weapon every time your armor breaks. I'm honestly not sure what to think of Brace for impact. It seems like it would be a good perk against mortars, but perhaps it doesn't work in PvP. Either that or mortars aren't considered explosions. Anyways, I wouldn't rely on it when facing enemies with explosives. The artillery turret is an extremely strong skill for both PvE and PvP, but it takes some practice to get the hang of it. If you want players to hate you, I strongly recommend using it in PvP. In PvE, it's very effective at all difficulties once you become proficient with it. The armor kit is one of the weaker ones, I'd say. Incombustible is awesome for hazard protection builds, especially since fire is by far the strongest status effect in the game. With 80% hazard protection, you'll be immune to being lit on fire. Of course, you'll still take the explosive damage and skill damage, so just be aware of that. Explosive ordnance is obviously good for explosive builds. Gives them a little extra kick. This is definitely the worst grenade in the game, never equip it. Bleed is very weak in PvE and does very little damage in PvP. The weapon is a grenade launcher. The damage is modest, but it can be used to get enemies out of cover, and the stagger is nice. Extremely slow swap speed of the specialization weapons makes it hard to follow up on the stagger though. As an AR main, I really like the attachment. It gives 7% crit chance, which makes it a little bit easier to hit the cap on non-SMG builds. The Demolitionist is a very well balanced specialization. You can make a whole build around the mortar turret, and it's also very helpful for most DPS builds as well. Moving on, the Survivalist Tactical Link will give a slight boost to your teammates if you or someone else in your group is running status effects. You do not gain the boost. Crunch time is very nice in PvE, since skill users will spend pretty much all their time in cover. Not so much for PvP. Scraping by can be helpful if you're using ammo directives. After each room, you can just do a few cover-to-cover movements to top up your ammo. The Mender Ball is just a ball that follows and heals you or a teammate. This is very useful if you have a teammate that tends to stray out of your healing hive. Great medkit if you're in a team. Terrible if you're solo. Before making a push, you can pop your medkit and your teammates will have a very strong buff for 5 seconds. If you're at full armor, you can just nick yourself with a grenade and then med up. Elite Defense is obviously a good perk for legendary missions and heroics in group play where there are more yellow enemies. Triage Specialist will really help your healer build, but as with most perks in this tree, it's only for teammates. This is a great grenade, especially for PvP. Very good for blocking paths or denying a boost in conflict. The crossbow does decent AoE damage. I'd put it on about the same level as the grenade launcher. Basically, Survivalist is a good specialization for team play, especially for support builds in both PvE and PvP. Finally, Sharpshooter. The tactical link can be a good boost for your teammates, but only if they aim for headshots and you stay in the back. Otherwise, it's a waste. Round after round is nothing to write home about. My home is my castle is virtually useless because the boost is so small. Here's where this specialization gets good. This drone can be such a nuisance for players in PvP if you put it in a good spot. It will keep them pulsed and show when they are trying to flank. A very good skill. The armor kit is also awesome for PvP. It will completely cleanse you of status effects and then give you extra resistance for 20 seconds afterwards. With all the desperate skill users in PvP these days, I'd put this armor kit at number 1 or 2. I also think breath control is very handy. Makes unstable guns much easier to control without having to put any handling on your build. If you're using rifles or marksman rifles, one in the head is a great little boost. The flashbang has its uses, but generally not a great grenade.
He's immune. He's immune.
He's immune? No, he's on fire.
I got 2. Naturally, the specialization weapon is a badass sniper rifle. It does great damage on headshots and is very easy to use, so it can make poor snipers like myself feel like a boss. The attachment is a scope that gives 45% headshot damage. If you're sniping, you're obviously going for headshots, so this is going to be a very good attachment. This specialization is awesome for assault rifles, and marksman rifles in PvP and PvE. I probably wouldn't equip it on a close quarters build like SMG or shotgun though. So I can't make a video about specializations and not talk about Tip of the Spear, the gear set designed around using specialization weapons. This set honestly never appealed to me until I tried it the other day. I put together a build using both the backpack and the chest piece. I think the backpack is great as it basically gives you 20% extra damage at all times on top of the 20% you get from the set. The chest piece is okay, but I think Glass Cannon, Obliterate, or Unbreakable would actually be better. So how this set works is, dealing damage with your specialization weapon gives you a big weapon damage boost for 60 seconds. Plus, you generate specialization ammo every 60 seconds, so you'll basically have the boost up at all times. Here I'm using it with the Sharpshooter specialization because I absolutely love the TAC 50, but you could use it with any of the specializations. Although I wouldn't recommend using the gunner as the minigun will probably get you killed. This is certainly not the strongest build out there, but if you really enjoy using the specialization weapons, you'll really enjoy this set. And it can dish out a significant amount of damage. Just be aware that it does not work in PvP. So those are my thoughts on the specializations in the Division 2. I hope this video was helpful. Thanks for watching, and feel free to come check out my stream on Saturday and Sunday nights. Happy farming, and I'll see you in the next video.